It's estimated that a vacation in the United States will set a consumer back between $1,500 to $2,000 per person per week. Take a whole family on a trip and you can kiss that new car you've been wanting goodbye. And thanks to tourist traps in popular cities like New York and New Orleans, overpriced hotel stays at resorts like those in Orlando and a night out in Seattle costing an average of more than $114, we decided to make a list of more affordable vacation options for some of the most visited and popular locations in the United States. Because for every overpriced and better marketed beach or city in America, there is an underappreciated and just as remarkable one that can save you hundreds of dollars. So please, we hope you enjoyed today's list and hopefully save some money while still enjoying the summer. But first, remember to hit those like and subscribe buttons to keep up to date on all new content from the channel, and comment down below with other hidden gems that you are willing to share with others. Now, let's dive in. Number 10. Kill Devil Hills instead of Myrtle Beach. With 60 miles of wide, sandy coastline, the Myrtle Beach area of South Carolina is the destination for over 19 million people annually who are just looking for a nice oceanic getaway. But there are also over 400 hotels in that area, countless vibrant attractions, 90 golf courses, and so much more. But with those 400 hotels and attractions comes limited views of the beach from certain rooms, a dimmed sunset in the evening, and paid parking on top of whatever other expenses are taken on at one of the most populated beaches in the nation. On the other hand, the Outer Banks of North Carolina are a 200-mile stretch of barrier lands and spits, which celebrate both the natural scenery and local history. The largest town on the Outer Banks is Kill Devil Hills, whose meek population of 7,500 residents enjoy beachfront living without the added hassle of concrete and neon taking away from their scenic homes. In Kill Devil Hill, visitors can enjoy free parking right up to the beach, the Wright Brothers National Memorial, which overlooks the ocean from its hilltop location, and a spacious rural setting, all from the comforts of a Carolinian beach. Seriously, when comparing the 60 miles of overpacked and overpriced Myrtle Beach to its 200-mile-long natural neighbor to the north, it seems insane that the former would be more famous. Number 9. Hershey Park instead of Disney World. Though Disneyland of Anaheim fame was the first among the House of Mouse's ventures into theme parks and resorts, Disney World has since become ubiquitous with family fun and non-stop pestering from children. Unfortunately, the same kids who love the idea of a magical kingdom full of cartoon characters have no concept of quite how financially draining the Big Mouse Daddy is. For a 5-day trip to Disney World, it's estimated that a 3-member family will spend just over $5,000 for a 5-day stay, and that's just for the basic experience. And anyone craving those Orlando hotel upgrades or special experiences can fork out upwards of $10,000 for a family trip. Meanwhile, much like cartoonist Walt Disney, chocolatier Milton S. Hershey of Hershey chocolate fame also had a vision that expanded beyond the craft that made him famous. In 1903, Hershey created a town named after himself for his workers, and unlike many horrific company towns of the 19th and early 20th centuries, it seemed like the chocolate magnate genuinely wanted to help his staff. 3 years after establishing the town, Hershey created Hershey Park for his town's population, which would eventually transform into the Hershey Park of today. Now, anyone wanting a theme park experience based on some of their fondest childhood memories can do so in this 121-acre park filled with roller coasters, chocolate-themed decor, water park activities, seasonal-themed experiences, and much more for an average cost of around $4,500 for a 7-day stay for a 3-member family. And unlike the price tag that comes with a Disney trip, this cost does include access to everything that Hershey Park and its partnering attractions offer. Number 8. Lafayette instead of New Orleans. Every year, more than 19 million people visit New Orleans. Between the Cajun, Creole, and French influences, this city is endearingly vibrant and a must-stop for most Americans at least once in their lives, especially for Mardi Gras. But between natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina and a steadily increasing violent crime rate, many have started to avoid New Orleans, particularly if they are on a family trip and don't want their children exposed to the common activities of Bourbon Street and the added reputation the street has gained in recent years for becoming a tourist trap. Lafayette, Louisiana, on the other hand, is the best of both worlds. While the city still has a population just shy of 250,000, 50,000 people. It is much less prone to tourist traps, has much of the same culture as New Orleans, only not watered down, and partakes in the same celebrations as the Big Easy. Much like those who found their way to New Orleans, the settlers of Lafayette were French-speaking Acadians, exiled from Nova Scotia in 1763. This is still visible in the Cajun dialect spoken there, and every year they celebrate Mardi Gras, much like their New Orleans counterparts. Near Lafayette, there are swamps where tourists can take airboat rides, a living museum, and an entire Acadian village that was preserved and restored dating back to the early 19th century. If you want to explore authentic Louisiana culture without the threats and hassles that are present in New Orleans, Lafayette is definitely a great choice. Number 7. Desert hot springs instead of Palm Springs. In the early 20th century, Palm Springs, California began transforming into the desert resort that it's now known as. Though it was the traffic from Hollywood celebrities beginning in the 1930s that truly cemented the city as a high-end getaway. Now, it's known as one of the golf capitals of the world, plays home to celebrities of every nature, and is a destination for spa getaways for people globally. But the fame that the name has generated also generates higher prices, crowded streets, and if we're going to be honest, loads of pomposity that many of us would rather just avoid entirely. But just 11 miles north of all that grandiose pomp lies Desert Hot Springs, a beautiful, cheaper, and more natural alternative getaway opportunity. The city, which relies heavily on spas and lodgings for its local economy, has turned green with a number of windmills and transitions to solar power. For tourists and travelers, there are a number of natural hot springs, and those wanting a full stay can find affordable rates, complete with treatments at businesses like Mineral Springs Hot Mineral Resort and Spa. Meanwhile, those looking for a classic celebrity treatment can still find it at places like Lido Palms. Food won't be an issue either, as there are a number of local cuisines that are affordable for just about anyone, even including dollar taco night at the local Los Palmos Mexican Cuisine. And for anyone who is taking out their loved ones for a spa day but needs to kill time themselves, Desert Hot Springs is also home to the Cabo Pueblo Museum, a museum that celebrates the rogue adventurer who discovered the town's hot springs with a pickaxe. Number 6. Twin Falls instead of Niagara Falls. Every year, millions of people travel to both Canada and upstate New York to see the gorgeous Niagara Falls, spending thousands between their flights, hotel stays, maid-of-the-mist boat rides, souvenirs, and so on. And the price rises even higher if you want to go into Buffalo or Toronto for extra sightseeing. Yet surprisingly, while Niagara Falls is considered a natural wonder and has been featured in every bit of pop culture from Superman 2 to Bruce Almighty, it isn't even one of the tallest waterfalls in the world. In fact, there are around 500 waterfalls in the world that are taller. The only thing that makes Niagara Falls so unique is the amount of water that falls from there when compared to its counterparts. Meanwhile, Twin Falls, Idaho to the west plays home to Shoshone Falls, which has been dubbed the Niagara of the West, despite actually being 212 feet taller than Niagara. Shoshone Falls sits beautifully in the Snake River Canyon, where tourists can be found all year long, kayaking and fishing or hiking along the trail that sits on the bottom of the canyon. If this isn't adrenaline-inducing enough, there are always jumpers flying through the air from the Perrine Bridge as onlookers watch from the magically serene Centennial Waterfront Park. Truly, Twin Falls has something for everyone in this city full of free parking, cheap hotel stays, and friendly people. Number 5. Block Island instead of Martha's Vineyard. New England is one of the most stunning regions in the entire United States. With its oceanic views, lush green vineyards, colonial architecture, and upscale population, no place epitomizes New England's beauty quite like Martha's Vineyard. Celebrities the world over have taken the 8-mile ferry ride from Cape Cod, Massachusetts, to get to the island's pristine cottages and relaxed living. But that quaint trip to the Aquinnah Cliffs, the Edgartown Lighthouse, or the shopping trip on Circuit Avenue will set visitors back a hefty price, around $3,400 for a week-long trip for two. With a price tag like that attached to the trip, one would expect an entire beach house for the week. Meanwhile, southwest in Rhode Island, there lies another island with much less attention, yet just as much if not more natural beauty. Block Island lies just 9 miles south of mainland Rhode Island, and the permanent population quaintly remains under 1,500 people. With 40% of the island set aside for conservation and many of the buildings being historical landmarks, including the southeast and north lighthouses, there is something for everyone despite the tiny size. Beach lovers can enjoy 17 miles of publicly open Atlantic coastline, complete with snorkeling, sailing, parasailing, and any other vacation activity one can think of. Shoppers can enjoy the island's many souvenir and gift stores, of which there are over 50. Art lovers can stop at one of the multiple galleries. You name it, the island has it. So if you're going to spend this much money to take a ferry to New England getaway, Block Island just may be the better option than its northeastern neighbor. Number 4. Jacksonville Beach instead of South Beach. Miami Beach is one of the most frequented beaches in the nation, particularly South Beach, whose nightlife has been popularized in everything from Grand Theft Auto Vice City to the Bad Boys movie franchise. The Cuban influence on South Beach architecture makes the buildings stand out, especially with the palm trees lining the streets, giving everything an exotic feel to boot. But those same beaches that have become popular are now overcrowded, and that same nightlife that is so vibrantly enticing can occasionally turn chaotic. And while the food may be delicious, the sheer cost of eating out in Miami is enough to leave a bad taste in your mouth. And yet, due north, along the Florida line, lies Jacksonville, a much cheaper and spacious alternative to South Beach, Miami. With 22 miles of coastline, beach volleyball, fishing, boating, surfing, and even dolphins are all common sights for tourists at Jacksonville Beach, which also has some of the best waves in the United States. For anyone looking for a beach vacation on a budget, Jacksonville has some of the lowest hotel fares in the state of Florida at around $77 per night, with stays right on the oceanfront complete with a spa treatment for as little as $150 per night, and local eateries with menu items so cheap that they'll have you going back for seconds. At a time when people are both weary of large crowds and spending large amounts of money, Jacksonville Beach is the perfect alternative to a South Beach vacation getaway. Number 3. Big Sky Resort instead of Aspen. Aspen, Colorado and its slopes and resorts have been the epitome of ski and snowboarding communities for decades, but that pristine image is perhaps the most expensive in the nation, with the average home costing an eye-watering $18.7 million, probing many to dub Red Mountain, which overlooks Aspen, Billionaire's Mountain. A couple's getaway for 1 week is expected to cost around $4,000, and that's just for the basic trip and stay, not accounting for the frustratingly packed slopes that you'll have to deal with when you're finally geared up. Yet, while Aspen may be the most famous ski resort in the United States, it's not the biggest, not even second biggest in terms of land area. That honor goes to Big Sky Resort in Montana, just an hour south of Bozeman, which is second only to Park City Mountain in the Rockies. While the properties that Big Sky manages offer full condos for vacationers, complete with kitchens, there are even more affordable stays within a 10-minute drive of the resort. Foodies can also enjoy affordable eating and drinking at places like Yeti Dogs and Lone Peak Brewery. And unlike Aspen slopes, which are often overpacked and overpriced, visitors to Big Sky can enjoy friendly faces who just want to share the hill. With the local Big Sky Golf Course, countless other outdoor activities, and the famous Yellowstone National Park just an hour's drive away, Big Sky is definitely worth a look. Number 2. Finger Lakes instead of Napa Valley. After the famous Judgment of Paris wine tasting event in 1976, Napa Valley, California was cemented as a top name globally in wine production. Today, around 4 million people visit the valley annually in order to take wine tours at the over 800 wineries, egged on by representation in pop culture like the film Wine Country and the Lindsay Lohan-led Parent Trap film from 1998. Anyone who has been to Central California can personally vouch for how beautiful it is, but they can also vouch for how pricey it gets. On top of California's high taxes, the fame that Napa Valley has gained has given them the ability to raise the costs of wine tours, not to mention the wines themselves. And though the state of New York also has a reputation for high taxes and expensive living, upstate New York is an entirely different beast. Here, the cost of living is much cheaper. There is far more greenery than concrete, and the 11 Finger Lakes provide for some of the best tasting and cheapest wine in the United States. While wine tours in Napa Valley, California can often range in the hundreds of dollars, depending on how long you go, the Finger Lakes of New York are full of wineries that charge a cheap $3 to $10 entry fee for the tasting of dozens of wines, and that's to say nothing of the local bottles that can sell for as cheap as the entry fees. Many people would point to the fact that Napa Valley is sunny and beautiful almost year-round, while New York faces blizzards and cold temperatures. But once you've seen a Finger Lake frozen over, full of ice skaters and in Fishers with the wine replaced in winter with warm cider, you'll see that the Finger Lakes have a lot to offer. Number 1. Philadelphia instead of New York City. On the Statue of Liberty, the words of poet Emma Lazarus say, "Give me your tired, your poor, and your huddled masses yearning to breathe free." Well, this quote and the idea behind it is what drove millions to America in search of freedom. Any one of the 56 million tourists to New York City in 2022 can tell you from experience that nothing in the Big Apple is free. Every impossible-to-find parking spot, every abrasively loud hotel, every adorable carriage ride through Central Park, and literally everything in between will cost you a pretty penny when all you want to do is see Times Square or a show on Broadway for the first time. Instead of going through the hassle that is New York City, though, why not try going 2 hours southwest to Philadelphia? Here, America's founding fathers met at Independence Hall to establish a new nation, and anyone visiting can step hundreds of years back into history at this location, along with dozens of others. This has even probed UNESCO to dub Philadelphia a World Heritage City. In addition to the historical claims to fame, Philly has been represented in every bit of pop culture from the shows Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And no foodie would be complete without having an authentic Philly cheesesteak at least once in their lives. Despite the historical significance and popularity of America's first capital, a stay in the oldest districts in town, which are still preserved to remain as they were in the 18th century, can run as cheap as $139 per night when looking at the Morris House Hotel. With so much to do in such a culturally important city, Philly is often one of the most obvious overlooked vacation options. As always, thanks for watching, and please don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons on your way out, and comment down below with your suggestions for future videos.